right, welcome back to Mornings in Meridian. 2 best hours of local live talk radio right here in East Mississippi, West Alabama. Roger, along with Rob.
Hello.
Along with Charles.
Good morning.
The team is in place. All right, here's the pitch. Here we go. We're going to go to the phone lines right now because we have standing by. We have what we got here, fellas, is a long-distance call from Washington.
Hey.
All right, so I want to say good morning to Congressman Michael Guest. Good morning. Welcome to our show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me back on today.
Well, we appreciate it so much. You checking in with us, letting us know what's going on in the Beltway. Of course, I admire you gentlemen and the ladies that go up there and fight for us up there in that jungle. So thank you for doing that.
Swamp.
Well, thank you for letting me have the opportunity to serve. And this week, like most weeks up here, has been busy, and so we're continuing to track everything going on, and looking forward to having the chance, hopefully, to make it home this weekend. Looks like that as the week progresses, chance we may be up here all weekend. If that's the case, we'll work through the weekend, but would prefer to be back home and get to see friends and family again.
Congressman, you're one of the managers of this process from the House of the impeachment for Mayorkas, and we were talking about it earlier. Is this something that's got some teeth, or is this going to be mainly a kind of a symbolic move on the part of the House and possibly the Senate?
You know, at this point, the articles of impeachment have been delivered to the Senate. The Senate then has the ability to set the procedure as to how things will go forward in the Senate. We expect the Senate to be back in this afternoon, and a couple of different options. First of all, if you look historically how impeachment has been handled in the Senate, historically the Senate impanels all the senators to serve as jurors. They then give the accused, in this case Secretary Mayorkas, some period of time to respond in writing to the articles of impeachment. That time period could be days and or weeks. They give the impeachment managers the chance to come in and then file a rebuttal to that written response. And then there is a trial that is conducted where the impeachment managers actually go onto the Senate floor. We present evidence. We would be allowed to call witnesses. And so that is historically how we've seen impeachments play out in the United States Senate. But we know that Leader Schumer and the Democrats in this case, because it is an election year, because many of their very vulnerable members are in swing districts where the situation at the border is extremely unpopular. We see Leader Schumer intends to offer, or we're told intends to offer later today, a motion to dismiss. And so what he would like to do is he would like to have this case dismissed so that he does not have to put first his vulnerable members in a tough situation to have to take votes on the border. But he can also use this as a way to provide cover or protection for President Biden if he goes into an election year. So still uncertain at this point just exactly what the next several days are going to look like as far as impeachment managers. I will tell you that our senators, both Roger Wicker and Cindy Hyde-Smith, along with other Republican senators, are pushing Chuck Schumer as hard as they can to require him to hold a trial, and that's what we hope will happen, and that would be consistent with historical precedents that we've seen with articles of impeachment.
What kind of vote do they need? Is it just simply 50% plus one, or?
That's right. So simple majority. So it requires 51 votes. So if it was tied 50-50 to dismiss, that would fail. There would be no top breaker, as I understand, by the vice president in this case. And we know that the Senate makeup right now is 51 Democrats, 49 Republicans. And so if Chuck Schumer is able to get every member of his party to vote for the dismissal, we could see that happen later this week. But my hope is that some of these members will at least allow us the opportunity to present evidence, even if ultimately they decide not to vote in favor of impeachment. At least allow us the ability to go through the process that has been followed numerous times when articles of impeachment have been sent to the Senate.
Have you found that this is this simply the I guess any malfeasance that we're talking about on the part of Mayorkas? Has it been his management, or is it you think it's been the direction of the administration?
I think it may be a combination of both. Now, I will tell you that the law requires and gives him not only the power but the responsibility to follow the Immigration and Nationalization Act. And so he, not the president, he has been tasked with making sure that immigrants are detained and that immigrants are removed. Now, and if he is trying to use as a defense, well, I'm just following what the president has told me to do, I'll tell you first and foremost that would not be a valid defense in any court of law. And the other article that you've got to look at, too, if you remember, is that he has been held with breaching the public trust. And that includes him coming in to Congress repeatedly and lying to members of Congress when questioned under oath, saying things such as the border is secure, which he's now finally backed up on. This past week was the first time that Secretary Mayorkas has come to Congress and has admitted that the border is not secure. Up until this point, he has repeatedly maintained two things. We have operational control of the border, that the border is secure, and that based upon the funding that he's received, he is doing everything he can to prevent illegal immigrants from coming into the country. And I'll tell you that all those things are blatantly false. They're blatantly untrue. And so I think as it relates to Article 2 of the impeachment, the breach of public trust, there is no way that he could try to rely or to deflect or cast blame on anybody else other than himself, because he was the one that made those statements, not the president, not the vice president, not anyone else in the administration.
So, just to kind of summarize what you said earlier, you're expecting there to be a vote this afternoon from the Senate as to whether to dismiss this these impeachment articles, or go forward. Is that right?
Yes, sir. That is the information that we have received from our colleagues in the Senate, that Chuck Schumer will be offering a motion to dismiss sometime this afternoon, and it would require 51 votes in the Senate, and that they are working very hard to try to maintain the precedent that has been set before and allow us to have the opportunity to conduct a trial. Our Republican senators are trying to make sure that happens.
What do you think? Do you have any inside knowledge that makes you think that the impeachment process might have enough votes to go forward?
The only reason that I'm somewhat optimistic of the possibility, as I do know that this is an election year, that there are probably 4 to 5 senators who are in swing districts that if they vote against allowing us to go forward, this puts them in a very difficult place politically. And so my hope is that they will use that their people in their district are using that political pressure. They're calling their senators and they're demanding that a vote be held, and that they vote against the motion to dismiss. So that's the only thing that really gives me pause that we may have a chance to move forward, Roger, as it is an election year. And again, many of these swing districts, if you look at the polling numbers, the immigration issue, the border issue, that generally ranks as one of the top 1 or 2 issues in each district. And so I hope that puts political pressure on these senators.
And I appreciate that. And, of course, I want to ask a couple other questions about what's going on up there, if that's okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
I watched this weekend as Speaker Johnson was talking about, the House was handed this $95 billion bailout package. And I was impressed with the idea that the Speaker was very insistent that this would be broken out into 4 different parts. I guess aid for Israel, aid for Ukraine, I think even some money for Indo-Pacific, and then there was something else. I forgot the 4th. But and I know you, sir, have gone on record with your 100% support of Israel. So tell us, I know that there's a faction in the Congress that says, hey, well, they want to oust Speaker Johnson. First of all, tell us about that, and then tell us what you think about the various aid packages.
Yeah, if you look, several weeks ago, Marjorie Taylor Greene actually filed a motion to vacate the chair, and so that would be the mechanism to remove Mike Johnson from the speakership. Now, while she has filed that motion, she has not brought that motion up for hearing. There is a process for her to do so, and all it would require would be for her to go to the floor. She could then make her motion privileged, and then the House would be required within 2 days of her making her motion privileged to vote on her motion to remove the speaker. She's not done that. Yeah. She was the only one really who was supportive of that. We've seen just this week, though, Thomas Massey from Kentucky came out just yesterday, and during our closed-door Republican meeting, he urged the speaker to resign. The speaker told him that he was not intending to resign, that he was going to continue to carry out the position that he had been elected to serve. And at that point, Thomas Massey said that he was going to join Marjorie Taylor Greene, and that he was going to support her motion to dismiss. Yeah. Now, as of Friday, today's Wednesday, my days run together. I apologize, Rob. So as of close of business Friday, the Republican majority in the House of Representatives sinks to a single seat. Mike Gallagher from Wisconsin, he is retiring early. He's retiring on Friday. So as of close of business Friday, the Republican majority in the House of Representatives is one seat.
Wow.
So in theory, if every Republican except Massey and Greene voted to keep the speaker, but if every Democrat voted to remove him, then Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey could join with the Democrat Party and remove Mike Johnson from the speakership. Now, we saw what happened when Kevin McCarthy was removed. He was removed last year. We went through a very difficult period. There was a 3-week period where there was no legislation that was being debated, no bills were brought to the floor, no committee work was proceeding because the chair had been vacated, McCarthy had been removed from the speakership, and we went through a 3-week process to select our next speaker. And ultimately, we knew that first we started off with Steve Scalise. He was unable to obtain the gavel. Then Jim Jordan, then Tom Emmer, and so Mike Johnson kind of moved up into those ranks. And so it took a protracted period of time for us to select a new speaker. And if Mike Johnson is removed, I fear that we will relive that again, that we will have Groundhog Day, that we'll once again go through this process. And we'll be going through this process at a time when elections for the entire House of Representatives are coming up in November. And I think that we will look like we are having great difficulties in governing. And I think that impacts the Republican Party politically going into these very crucial elections in November. It may also impact the presidential election, as we have a rematch of Donald Trump and Joe Biden. I think it's important Republicans show that we can govern, and that if Donald Trump is elected to presidency again, that we're going to be able to implement his policy. So I think we look very not only ununified, but I think we look very dysfunctional if Mike Johnson is removed from Speaker, and we're having to have now the third Speaker for this term of Congress. And I think that the impacts will be long-lasting.
And Congressman, I agree with you. I think we use the word it's embarrassing whenever the Republican Party shows that they can't even work together up on the Hill. And I think as much as we may appreciate some of the outspokenness of Marjorie Taylor Greene and even Mr. Massey, I think they really need to catch a vision of the big picture here. And not so much worry about their own
it's not
ideology.
It's not about the short game; it's the long game. And that's kind of the way I look at it. It's the long. It's not the short term; it's the long game, and what's ahead. Like the Congressman just said, the implications in November and beyond. So.
Yeah, I mean, we have a very real chance in November to retake the White House, to gain control of the U.S. Senate, and to hopefully maintain control of the House of Representatives. And if we're able to do that, we are going to be in a much better position to pass long-lasting legislation that's going to benefit the American people.
That would be nice.
If we do things in the House, which then impact the elections in the Senate and the elections for the White House, I feel that the repercussions are going to be things and that we're going to regret this once we move into November and move into next year into a new Congress.
Now, as far as again, like I said, I was impressed with the fact that the aid package was not going to be voted on in total. Now, is that indeed the truth? That's being broken out into different divisions, different sections? That was the plan that Mike presented to the conference on Monday. That he wanted to see this broken down instead of one big spending bill like it was sent over to the House from the Senate. He wanted to break this down into individual components and give people an up or down vote. And so if you support aid for Israel but don't support aid for Ukraine, then you can vote for the aid to Israel and you can vote against the aid to Ukraine. And so there was also, as you talked about, the Indo-Pacific, particularly Taiwan. I think that there is right now ongoing discussion is Mike Johnson, the Speaker, going to try to include maybe some border provisions, some things in there that would help provide relief at the southwest border. But I thought the plan was a very fair plan. It allowed everyone to have a say. If certain parts of the foreign aid funding were not supported and could not pass the House, those wouldn't be sent to the Senate. And so I think now we're still waiting on bill text. One of the things that Mike has proposed on some of this foreign aid would be, instead of just the money being given to countries, that the money would be a loan. Specifically as it relates to Ukraine, some of the provisions that I've heard is that we use seized Russian assets to help purchase military equipment and or ammunition and use those assets that we currently have seized and make Russia in essence pay for some of the aid that Mike wants to deliver to Ukraine. And so while we're still not done with all the particulars, just the general framework, Roger, I would agree is a fair framework that lets everyone have their say. It breaks it down into specific components, so you don't have to vote yes or no on the entire bill. You can vote yes for those things that you like and then no for those things that you don't. And when it comes to, I know Ukraine is probably the most controversial of the aid packages, I think, at this point. At least that's my perception. But one thing he said that I really got my attention was that if an aid package goes forward for Ukraine, I think 68% of that really goes back to jobs in America and companies that are manufacturing weapons and defense contracts and things like that, which, it kind of sees some of the people say, let's say the big defense contractor is going to get the money. Well, you know what? A lot of people working and earning their bread on their table by working for defense contractors. So, is that true, or I mean, is it 68%, or is it not true?
Yeah, I don't know the percentage again because we don't have bill text, but I do know that some of the money that is being proposed would actually go to backfill some of the older munitions that have already been delivered. And when you're looking at the aid package, I think it's important, at least for people that I've talked to back home, is this lethal or military aid, or is this humanitarian aid? And I think there is a broader support for providing Ukraine with bullets, with missiles, with weapon systems that they can use to fight Russia. And I think there's less support for just general humanitarian or financial aid. And so we still don't have that breakdown. We don't know what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
Part of the argument to not support Ukraine is we're not sure, is there graft, is there corruption, is some of the money that we're sending over being misappropriated? Well, if we're sending over bullets and weapon systems and things of that nature, those things are very difficult to misappropriate. And we can feel very confident that those weapons are going to the front lines and going to be used by the Ukrainians to defend their border against Russian aggression. And so those things are still being worked out. As they say, the devil's in the details. And so as we see the package finally unfold, it'll be, myself and other members will be able to really dig into what's being proposed, how those things are going to be offset or paid for, Are those going to be loans versus just our government giving aid to Ukraine or Israel or Taiwan? And again, do we have any border protections that accompany this aid package? Those are the big things that the Speaker's office is working through at this time.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like the way he's working through it should gain him a lot of support in the House.
You would hope.
You would hope, exactly.
Well, it's a much fairer proposal and far better than some of the stuff that we see that we saw when I was in the minority, when Nancy Pelosi would ram huge bills through with us having no time to read, no chance to offer amendments. You have to vote up or down.
Yeah.
And so I do think that Mike is working very diligently to make sure it is a fair process. They talk about open amendments where people can move to amend the legislation, to add things that aren't in there, take things out that are in the bill. And so at least what he laid out to us when we were back in D.C. on Monday, I think is a very fair process. And a process that I hope as a Republican conference that we can endorse and support.
All right, real quick, I know you've got things to do, but let's talk about the other war, Israel. Well, how do you think the administration's handling that, and what do we need to do?
I think we need to continue to stand with Israel, our greatest ally in the Middle East. I think what we saw over the weekend was unprecedented. The fact that the size, the scope of the attack. I think that while the defense was successful, I don't think Israel at this point can declare victory. I mean, I think that Israel needs to continue to seek out what their military options are against Iran. I just think if someone would have attacked America, if all those missiles and drones would have been launched at New York City or Washington, D.C. or Atlanta, Georgia, pick whichever city you want. We would have been seeing an immediate military response to punish the aggressor nation, which in this case is Iran. And so first, the fact that Israel has been able to show restraint, I think, is fairly incredible that they've not yet taken military retaliation. But we must support Israel. Israel is coming under attack from militant groups, Hezbollah, Hamas, now directly from Iran. They are really our only true ally in the Middle East, or maybe not our only ally, but they're our longest standing ally in the Middle East. We need to continue to stand with them. We need to provide them the military assistance that they need to be able to defend themselves and to carry out whatever acts that they need to, either on Israeli soil or throughout the Middle East, to protect themselves for future attack. And so I will continue to stand with Israel. I hope that this administration will. We've seen this administration really waffle on their support of Israel within the last several months. The president seems to have cowed down to the far left, who is a pro-Palestine movement. And so I hope that the president will come back to what we've seen with every president before him, is a president that will support Israel irregardless and will not waver in that support.
Congressman Michael Guest, we thank you for taking time with us. Anything you want to tell our listeners before we let you go this morning?
Again, just want to make it sure everyone knows that the number one mission of our congressional delegation back in Mississippi is the replacement of KC-135 over at the 186th Air Refueling Wing in Meridian. We sent a letter out signed by every member of the delegation. That letter went out last week in support of that. As I understand, we expect within the next several weeks to have a short list released by the Air Force, basically narrowing the number of bases that they are looking at. We are, as a delegation, working hard to make sure that first Meridian makes that short list. And then once we make that short list, we're going to work hard to see that we are the base that ultimately gets chosen. And so we will be working with the community to show community support, working with our state leaders, working with our National Guard leaders, General Bowles and his team. But Roger, and I know how important that is to you. You and I have had conversations about that before. Yeah. But just want you and your listeners to know that continues to be our top priority in Mississippi, and we're going to do everything we can to see that Meridian is successful in those efforts.
Very good. All right, Congressman Michael Guest. I guess one little request: just send our love to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for us.
Oh no!
Not mine.
And
I will send your favorite congressman your
Second
your
favorite.
wishes and
And
love and support.
if she-
Tell her that she's invited to come to Meridian anytime she wants.
yeah, she can
Come
call
on now.
She can call in. If she's not going to call in, just send an autographed picture. We can put on the studio here.
By the dartboard.
Listen, thank you so much for appreciate your time taken with us this morning to inform us and our listeners, and we wish you the best.
Yes, sir, gentlemen. You have a great day.
Hey,
Thank you.
thanks.
All right.
Right.
Congressman Michael Guest joining us. So